Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now just 28 days away from its official release by Disney and Lucasfilm, as well as creator George Lucas and J.J. Abrams, that is all set and ready to end the sequel trilogy and the Skywalker saga itself. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 is that this film is going to have many different pieces of nostalgia, as well as many different, pieces that are going to be related to Star Wars Legends material, making its way into Episode 9. And the thing about The Rise of Skywalker, the reason as to why a lot of people have mixed feelings about this movie is because of all the different risks that Disney and Lucasfilm are making and how it's going to have a big effect on the prequels and the originals and how we see those past 8 Star Wars movies that have come before this one. A prime example is that Palpatine is now alive and well, and it makes us look at Return of the Jedi in a different light. Now, with that being said, what's really unfortunate that has all to do with the character of Anakin Skywalker for Episode 9 specifically has to do with the character of Rey in the third act of this movie. Now, specifically, it's explained that during the reshoots and rewrites of the film during the months of August, September, and October is when many changes and adjustments were made to the film by Kathleen Kennedy, Disney, and Lucasfilm. It's explained that many of these changes were made due to them wanting to change the tone of the film and to change certain decisions that were previously made in the initial cut of the movie. It's explained that these changes had a massive impact on the second and third acts of the film, including a major part of Star Wars that has to do with Anakin Skywalker. Now, it's said that one of the deleted scenes was going to involve the return of the Chosen One, where Anakin Skywalker would appear as a Force ghost and would be the one to destroy the Sith once and for all. However, it's said that Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm had other plans for this during reshoots and decided to change that over to Rey, becoming the Chosen One and taking that title away from Anakin Skywalker, as the Chosen One prophecy will be expanded in Episode 9 that will describe that Rey is the Chosen One and the person to wipe out the Sith once and for all. Now, this decision was also made during some of the rewrites while the reshoots were happening mainly in August, where this will all be explained in the third act of the film, that Disney will expire Anakin as the Chosen One, where it will then go over to Rey. It said that the original scene featured Hayden Christensen in a very brief scene in the confrontation against Palpatine by taking him into the netherworld of the Force, where his dark side energy would diminish, thus killing Palpatine and Anakin, remaining as the Chosen One, even as a Force ghost. However, this change came mainly due to them wanting to focus more on Rey in the story, rather than Anakin Skywalker or the Skywalker bloodline. So let's go over a couple of parts about this and as to why, in my own perception here, that this actually ruins the Star Wars franchise when you look at the originals and the prequels. Now, George Lucas is the man who actually said that Anakin will and always will be the Chosen One himself. Nobody will ever take that title away from him. And by Disney and Lucasfilm changing that one big rule in the Star Wars franchise by making Rey now the Chosen One to destroy the Sith once and for all, honestly, I think is a bad decision by Disney and Lucasfilm. I think that this is not the correct path to go, and I think that this is an epic failure by Disney and Lucasfilm on their part, because in my point of view, right, when you look at what George Lucas said of how Anakin is and always will be the Chosen One, no ifs, ands, or buts, it's nobody else, it's Anakin Skywalker only. And the initial scene, a part of the other cut of Episode 9, actually involved Anakin Skywalker in a confrontation against Palpatine, portrayed by Hayden Christensen, taking his body into the netherworld of the Force, diminishing his dark side energy to the point where he would be destroyed. Hence making him the Chosen One still, even as a Force ghost. Now, the thing that I disagree with Lucasfilm on them making Rey the Chosen One, it seems like that they are just doing this for the sake of doing this, by giving that title over to Rey, and honestly, I will say that this really does affect the entire Star Wars franchise as we know it. Qui-Gon Jinn even said Anakin's the Chosen One, right? This was also said by Obi-Wan Kenobi and other canon material, that Anakin is the Chosen One. I mean, it really is the center of the Skywalker saga, and to have Rey become the Chosen One, to me at least, it just doesn't make all that much sense. And hence the title. I mean, Chosen One. It's Chosen One. there's only one person that can be the chosen one. And by that, being expanded in this movie and the prophecy being expanded, I'm not quite sure how fans are really going to adjust to that, or how fans are really going to react to this once the movie releases come this December of this year. Now, one thing about Anakin Skywalker I will say that I do love is how, at the very end of Return of the Jedi, you are led to believe that Anakin made that epic sacrifice, right? That he destroyed Palpatine once and for all. Now, once again, this is another prime example of Disney and Lucasfilm literally changing the events of history, basically changing how we view both, of course, the originals and the prequels. So, as it turns out, Palpatine never died. That's actually confirmed. That's a real thing. Palpatine is back in the flesh in Episode 9, and that Anakin Skywalker never really killed him. Hence, the Chosen One never ended the Sith once and for all. Only basically postponed it until Rey takes over that, that actual chance to destroy Palpatine. Now, the other thing that I do want to go over here is, of course, how this also has a massive ripple effect on what Kathleen Kennedy said over at Star Wars Celebration. You guys may recall, we just went over that this morning, that Kathleen Kennedy said back in April that Palpatine was always in the cards since The Force Awakens, which ended up not being true. Colin Trevorrow, the original director of course, Star Wars Episode 9, confirmed today that Palpatine was never really in the cards at all for his script of Episode 9. Meanwhile, Kathleen Kennedy says that Palpatine was in the cards all the way since The Force Awakens was being developed. And we talked about this, of how Kathleen Kennedy essentially lied to the fans, that Palpatine was, pretty much a big discussion since 2014, essentially, which ended up not being the case. It was basically a discussion right around when The Last Jedi released. And that was basically a reaction to The Last Jedi backlash of how they needed a new villain, how they needed a reason that both Rey and Kylo Ren would team up now that Snoke is dead. What they really should have done, in my point of view, is that they should have kept Snoke alive. They could have stuck around with the new villain, after all, and could have done something more around the lines with Snoke going up against Luke, or anything like that. But this definitely is not good for the Star Wars franchise. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with me on this, but to me, in my opinion, this does ruin the franchise to an extent. Does it ruin it in its entirety? That's debatable, I guess, but this definitely does have a negative impact on how fans will view, the prequels and the originals and Anakin's sacrifice at the very end of Episode 6, and I'm just not quite sure how fans are really going to react to this. It's going to be a very interesting experience once it drops on December 19th to see how fans think about Anakin Skywalker basically giving that Chosen One title over to Rey, and how Rey is now the Chosen One and the one to destroy the Sith, such as Palpatine once and for all at the very end of Episode 9. Now, my opinion, I think, is that Kylo Ren should be the one to deserve that title. He is a Skywalker after all. He holds the Skywalker bloodline. It just makes sense. Hence, Luke's line of dialogue in The Last Jedi. He's got that mighty Skywalker blood. I think that's a very good, part by Luke, is that he realizes that Kylo is a part of the Skywalker bloodline. And they kind of put that to the wayside. There's so much potential and so much room for Kylo Ren to grow that they kind of just, disregarded Kylo to becoming the Chosen One, since he is a reverse Anakin. He's basically a reverse Anakin story. That's what I like so much about Kylo Ren, is that he literally is Anakin Skywalker in reverse, and that's going to be a very interesting thing in Episode 9. To see how he slowly turns from the dark side to the light side of the Force. I remember J.J. Abrams said way back when he was developing The Force Awakens, or, when he was actually talking about it in a commentary, where he actually states that the inspiration of Kylo was basically a what if version of Anakin Skywalker being, this dark side Sith Lord without the injuries, without the Darth Vader armor. That's essentially what Kylo Ren is. That's a very interesting take by J.J. Abrams, I will admit. I think it's one of the main reasons as to why Kylo Ren, at least in my point of view here, is the most interesting character in the sequel trilogy as far as the new characters go, even more so than Rey. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.